Welcome everyone, we're so glad you made the choice to watch our show this evening and joining us for another episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast with your hosts Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric L. Davis. We ask that you please note that the information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and does not constitute medical advice. It is essential to consult with a qualified healthcare professional for any medical concerns, diagnosis, or treatment. This podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, and any actions taken based on the information presented are at your own risk. We are so glad you made the choice to watch our show this evening and join us for a brand new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Let's watch what this evening's podcast is all about. Tonight's episode is titled, The Mental Health Benefits of Animal Companionship. In this powerful and heartwarming episode, your hosts will take a deep dive into the mental health benefits of animal companionship. Backed by science and filled with heartfelt stories, tonight we will explore how pets reduce anxiety, combat loneliness, and help us cope with trauma. You'll learn about animal-assisted therapy, how pets support people with post-traumatic stress disorder, and the quiet emotional strength animals bring into our lives. According to a 2025 United States American Psychiatrist Association national poll, 81% of pet owners report a positive impact on mental health, with 65% saying their pets specifically help reduce stress and anxiety. 61% cite companionship, and 62% note a calming presence. Physical activity encouragement was reported by 31%. In a 2024 survey of 2,200 adults, 84% said their pets positively affect their mental health. Around 65% described their pets as true friends, and 64% said they offer unconditional support. In a May 2025 global survey among 30,000 pet owners worldwide, 65% preferred de-stressing with their pets rather than family or friends. 90% find their pet's mere presence relaxing. 59% enjoy silent companionship, no need to speak. And 25% value being able to express worries without expecting a response. 77 to 80% said pets encourage taking breaks from screens, chores, or work. The Mental Health America site states, 80% believe pets bring happiness and emotional support, 66% say pets relieve stress, and 55% think they help reduce anxiety and depression. In an American Heart Association survey, 95% of pet parents rely on pets for stress relief. 47% say pets help them stay physically active, 68% relax by snuggling pets, and 61% feel less lonely. Across different surveys and populations, around 80 to 90% of pet owners recognize mental health benefits from their pets, most commonly stress reduction, companionship, unconditional support, and a calming presence. Pet interactions are also linked with encouraging more activity, better self-care habits, short breaks from work or screens, and emotional regulation. While correlations are strong, some experts caution that not all benefits are causal. For instance, in older adults, a recent scientific report study of 16,500 Europeans aged 50 to 99 found that cat and dog ownership was associated with slower rates of cognitive decline, especially in memory and verbal fluency, compared to non-owners and owners of other pets like fish or birds. When it comes to animal-assisted therapy, benefits documented in settings like nursing homes, hospitals, and trauma recovery include reductions in blood pressure and cortisol, improved mood, mobility, and social engagement, especially for conditions like dementia, post-traumatic stress disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and autism spectrum disorders. Whether you're a lifelong pet owner or someone searching for comfort in tough times, this episode is a reminder of the healing power that comes with a wagging tail or a soft purr. Let's hear what our hosts have to say.
Well, howdy, and welcome back to the Your Life Matters Show podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hodgson, and of course, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, psychotherapist, Dr. Eric L. Davis. Dr. Davis, we probably have a very, very interesting show today.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of fun with Mark Raveley last week, on here, and I still think we have to add a piece later on where we're going to come into Zoom and we're going to try to play some music. We'll have you hook your drums up. I'll play bass here. and
Sounds
I'm on
great.
some guitar, and we'll jam on that. Heck, like we talked about once before, maybe we'll even come up with a theme song for the Your
Yeah.
Life Matters
We
show.
can be the
And we'll
Your Life
record it
Matters
live.
Show podcast band.
Bam. Yep, there we
Yeah,
go.
I like it.
Well, now today we're diving into something that touches the hearts of so many, our beloved animal companions. Whether it's the loyal tail wag of a dog, the gentle purr of a cat, or even the quiet presence of a rabbit, bird, or guinea pig. Yes, I said guinea pig. Our pets have a way of reaching us emotionally, sometimes more than words ever could. We're going to take a walk on the softer side of mental health today. We're talking about the powerful, healing bond between humans and animals, the kind of connection that can soothe anxiety, it can ease depression, it can even help us recover from deep emotional pain. See, it turns out that science backs up what many of us already feel, that animal companionship can be a powerful force in improving mental health. Studies show that up to 90% of pet owners believe that their pets help reduce stress, ease anxiety, and give them a true sense of emotional support. And in an age where loneliness and burnout are at an all time high, these small paws and gentle eyes can offer something deeply like a human connection. See, this episode will explore how animals help us cope with stress, heal from trauma, and even slow down cognitive decline in later life. We'll talk about the animal assisted therapy, the emotional impact of losing a pet, and why so many people consider their animals as part of their family. So before we do that, I want to take a minute and introduce our sponsor, Waypost Counseling.
Let's be real. Life can feel overwhelming. Sometimes we lose our direction. And in those moments, reaching out for help isn't weakness. It's strength. You know, one of the most powerful things we can do for our mental health is simply to stop and ask for help. Well, look no further. Let me tell you about Waypost Counseling in Indianapolis, Indiana. Waypost was co-founded by husband and wife team Dr. Eric L. Davis and licensed therapist Aaron Davis. They started Waypost Counseling in 2020 because they wanted to create more than just a therapy practice. They wanted a place that truly walks alongside people through life's hardest seasons. And they offer more than just individual therapy. They provide individual therapy and couples therapy, problem gambling disorder, and consulting services as well. They work with adults navigating everything from ADHD to grief, addiction to life transitions. Every journey is different, but our goal is always the same, to help people pause, reflect, and realign with where they want to go. It's actually where their name, Waypost, comes from. A marker on the path, something to help guide your next steps. And for anyone listening who's been thinking, I don't know where to start, this might be the moment. Therapy doesn't have to be intimidating. At Waypost, you'll find honesty, warmth, and a practical approach to real change. They're here to help you find direction and walk with you every step of the way. Whether you are in Indiana or anywhere in the United States, help is just a phone call away. They treat clients in person or using video conferencing directly from your home. If you're ready to start that journey, visit waypostcounseling.com or call Dr. Eric L. Davis at 317-762-0904 or therapist Aaron Davis at 317-659-0179 and take the first step. Waypost Counseling is proudly certified by the Indiana FSSA Division of Mental Health and Addiction and the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Abuse. That's www.waypostcounseling.com. Your next chapter starts here. You need to make that first call.
So tonight we're going to talk about the psychology behind that connection, why it works, how it impacts things like cortisol, loneliness, and daily routine, and even how the loss of a pet can mirror the grief we feel when losing a person. Many people bring their pets to work with them, or they work out of their home with their pets are right with them. In fact, right now, Dr. Davis and I both have our pets at our feet as we record this. So whether it's a dog greeting you at the door, a cat purring beside you while you work, or a therapy animal helping a veteran manage PTSD, these creatures offer more than just companionship. They offer hope, structure, and unconditional love. Because when words fall short, sometimes a purr, a purr, or a nudge is all the therapy we really need. We will do all of this tonight with compassion, clarity, and curiosity because your life and your mental well being matter. So let's get right into it. So, Dr. Davis, why do you think the bond between human and animals is so effective for mental health?
I think because, you know, it's so pure. I mean, if you think about if you have a dog or a cat, your bond with them is just pure love. There's no speaking, there's no, deep, intimate discussions about anything. It's just being together, you know, doing things together, spending time together. Um, and animals, like you were saying in the intro, animals love us unconditionally. No matter what type of day I've had at work or who's mad at me in the world, my dog is always happy to see me. And
Uh,
I think there's a lot to be said for that.
it was amazing. I was watching YouTube last night and I came across a video of someone who had raised a lion from, when it was a little kitten, um, and was with them for like 4 or 5 years. And then they released the lion out into the wild. And I guess it was at least 10, 15 years later, he went back out into the wild to look for, this lion. And the lion heard his voice and saw him from a long way away and started walking really slowly towards him. I guess get a scent for that matter. And as he got up closer, realized it was him, gave him a big hug, and actually knocked him on the floor from wanting to play with him and everything else. And when I hear people say sometimes that um, you know they're only animals, it's obvious that pets have a lot, animals, I should say, have a lot of emotions. And they're like humans. They remember people and they have feelings for people and they really care about those feelings. They care about their humans. So, Dr. Davis, from a clinical standpoint, how do pets help regulate emotions like anxiety, depression, or stress?
Well, so we're not alone, you know. There was an example. We'll probably get into this. I'm sure I'm probably killing one of the next questions that you have, but I had a lady come in once that was having a panic attack. Okay, so she called me on the phone, was close to the office, and basically she was in mid panic attack. And I said, yeah, come on over, Um, so she came to the office, and Paulie, my dog Paulie, he's a little Chihuahua.
Hmm.
He was with me at work that day, and he's small. He's a pretty small dog, but he's not mean. He doesn't bite. Just very very calm demeanor and everything. And um, she was talking to me, sitting on the couch in my office, and he jumped up on the couch and sat down in her lap, and she was just petting him. And I mean, it was a visible calm. You could see a visible calm kind of come over, and it was funny because she even said at one point, she was sitting there petting him, she was like, he really does help. And it was like, well, he's all he literally was doing was sitting in her lap. But that, I think it has a lot to do with just grounding us too.
My regular doctor, he's got a dog, this little dog. And usually what happens when you go to the doctor's office, the nurse comes in first and she checks your vitals and she'll walk out and then the dog will come in. And the little dog will come in, he'll play with you a little bit, sniff you, let you pet him. And then he'll go in and lay down under the chair. And a few minutes later, the doctor will come in and the doctor will take care of you and stuff. And then when the doctor leaves, the dog follows right behind and goes to the next room. And it's really good because it's relaxing. I guess I know it relaxes me. So it's got to relax some of the other patients that are there before they, get to see the doctor. But unfortunately, I guess there are people that may be allergic to the dog or, the clinics worry about liability and they've asked them not to bring the dog to work anymore. But I loved having that dog there. My wife even loved when the dog was there. It was a good way to relax with the dog. It's a whole other
Absolutely, yeah.
story.
What's
Yeah,
what's there? It's on YouTube. It's a song called "The Cheese Tax." Have you heard
yeah,
that? But it's
yes.
fun. I mean, it's cute, you know. But those are the things I think of. I mean, my wife and I, we laugh about funny things our dogs do every single day,
Hmm.
you know. And it's like I said, I think it's grounding. Another thing that I think really helps us as individuals when we own pets is we're whether we know it or not, we're working on nonverbal communication. You know, now Paulie and Quinn, those are my two dogs. They both try to talk, but they're Quinn is a Shih Tzu Chihuahua mix, and Paulie's a Chihuahua Yorkie mix. So he's a Chorkie and she's a Chizu, I think is what they call her breed. She has one eye, and they're both rescues. But um, you know, think about that. We're working on nonverbal communication. You know, the dogs they do that. Aaron always says he's a sneeze communicator because I guess that's he thinks he's telling us something, you know, doing that or whatever. But um, I always found it interesting. I saw a video one time and somebody said, just try this experiment for a few days straight. Try not to say anything to your dog. You know, just don't say anything, just do nonverbal communication. And I tried that for, you know, I don't know if I went 3 days or something because I can't handle not talking to my babies that long, you know. But honestly, it was wild because it is not, they don't listen to what we say. They listen to how it is said, and they listen to our body language.
I mean, I've had to tell my neighbors here that when you hear screaming, it's not something going on in the other room with Jen and I. You know, most of the times it's us just yelling at one of the dogs. But I know
Yeah.
the Pomeranian is one when he gets in trouble for doing something. And he's very good to listen to when I say, come here now. Okay. And he's learning to come here. But sometimes he'll be like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr," you know,
Uh-huh.
and because like, please don't hit me. Okay. And I don't hit the dog anymore. I think he's learned enough that if I tell him to do something, he stops. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's got that look. And I have to laugh. It's humorous. Okay. You know, I'm not going to hurt him. And maybe he also knows it makes me laugh. And that
Yeah.
diffuses that anger, and he can feel that anger drained out. You know, who knows? Okay, he hasn't sat down and had a conversation with me, so I really don't know what he's thinking. And I guess I'm gonna have to get that. What's his name? That the guy with the animal whisperer.
Oh, Caesar,
Yeah.
Caesar Milan.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah,
Eh,
that's who it. Yeah, we'll have to get him to come and sit down. You know,
Yeah.
or Peter Monn can come in because he has good
Yeah.
conversations with his dogs all the time too,
Yep.
there as
Yeah.
well. So just for those who, let's say he's a blogger, go check him out, Peter Monn,
Yeah.
MON.
Yeah.
Okay. So are there any specific mental health conditions that benefit more, let's say, from animal companionship, from a mental health?
I think if anxiety, definitely, you know, a lot of times anxiety symptoms, like having a animal for support can make a huge difference with anxiety. Um, Trying to think, I know like with PTSD, there's a lot of use of animal assisted therapy with the VA and veterans and you know, those sorts of things. But also in addiction, I know that I'm probably saying it wrong, equine therapy or equine
Yeah, yeah, for
horse,
horses.
you know,
Yeah.
horses.
Mhm.
You know, like because a lot of times there will be trauma that has affected trust or bonding or you know, and a horse has to trust you, you know, I mean, so um, you know, animal assisted therapy really it's amazing, honestly, just to see what simply and here's a perfect example. You know, when people take a dog into a nursing home, for example, you know,
Right.
and I mean, just to see the joy, it's just instant joy, just instant happiness. Or I remember when I worked with veterans and it was homeless veterans and they lived in a place long term. And we always took in, you know, like the stray cat that was, you know, wandering around or whatever, we would always take in the animals and everybody bonded around that. There was a lot of camaraderie around that. And no, we're going to band together. We're going to help this animal. It's just a beautiful thing. It really is.
I think sometimes the dogs that we see that they bring to nursing homes, they enjoy the attention just as much as the people
Absolutely.
enjoy
Yeah.
giving that attention. And they're good dogs. I mean, they're really well trained for that, I know myself, I said to Jen, I was like, if I'm ever in the place where it's coming to the end and I'm in a hospital, I was like, you bring the dogs there.
Mhm.
Okay. They're going to do something to allow me to bring the dogs there
Yeah.
because, they are, besides Jen, they are my life.
Yeah.
I mean, but I sometimes think I spend more time with them than I do with my wife because she's out, either working or going to school
Yeah.
or working shortly. So, it's really tough. Now, have you ever sent anybody for animal assisted therapy? Which is, by the way, what was you talking about? The AAT,
Yeah.
it's animal assisted therapy. Have you ever sent anyone and said, "Can you get that?"
So in Indiana, one of the things that therapists can do, and a lot of people don't really know this, but therapists can actually, not prescribe, but we can recommend basically that a client get an emotional support animal. Now, it's not a service animal. Keep in mind there are differences there. A service animal is an
Right, we're
animal
going to
that,
go into that.
yeah, okay. So, but as far as an
Yeah.
emotional support animal, and I've recommended getting pets to several people throughout the years, and I mean it always makes a big difference. It really does. So
Now, what? Yeah, I was going to say the outcomes are probably really good. Have I've never read anything where it's been bad.
no, absolutely not. I mean, um, it's basically, a pet is unconditional love. It's just unconditional love wrapped in
Mhm.
whatever fur it's in. I mean, and that's what a great asset to therapy. Seriously.
Well, we've been touching on the mental side, the dog's affection side, but also these dogs are also trained to understand when someone's about to have an episode,
Yeah.
and to help pull them out of that prior to it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
something,
there
it's
are a
something
lot of
that's
places out there do that.
I think it's really amazing. I watched a video recently where it was basically a person, she had posted online and she said she was like the magic of service animals, and she said, and I can't remember, the dog's name was like Thor or something like that. She's like, Thor knew that I was going to have a seizure before it even started, before she even knew it was happening. And it was wild because sure enough, it was a clip, and the dog immediately went and got in position to where she was going to be. And then when she kind of, she sort of laid down, he made sure that, and then when he made sure she didn't hit her head on she was convulsing, and that dog made sure she did not hit her head. I mean, that's absolute, like, I'm a super fan. I will be the first to admit when it
Mhm.
comes to service animals, I am a super, I just think that's amazing.
See, and how many of us? I guess when I was earlier on, I was like that. We'll go to Walmart or something like that, and you see one of these dogs, and you so want to go over and pet the dog, but you have to remember the dog is working. That's a working dog right there.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody carrying around, the little poochie with them. This is actually a service dog at work, and it's such a shame they gotta wear like such big signs. Please don't touch your service dog. And I think we just all, especially pet lovers, are drawn right towards any kind of pets.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's why I
Yeah.
said I talked about the pig when we were at the beginning here, because I was in Arizona once at a client's office, and the client had a pet pig. And I
Yeah.
remember, and no one told me this because they intentionally wanted to see Steve jump about 4 feet when he got there, okay? Because I sat down, and all of a sudden
Wait,
I felt
there's
something
more.
like, pushing against my leg. And I'm like, what? And I look down, there's a pig there. And I'm like, oh, they're bringing bacon to me. Okay, that's real. So it was that pet pig. And, you know, I, I got to know that pig. in the days that I was there. And, it was like having a pet. I mean, it really
Yeah.
was just a big 300, 400 pound pet. But, I
Yeah.
guess you don't want that jumping on you when you settle to sleep. But yeah, that it's now. There's any been what? Well, let me rephrase that. Is there any situations where you would recommend a support animal to someone as therapy?
Well, I would recommend a support animal anytime connection is, like forming healthy connections is part of what we're trying to accomplish. I wouldn't recommend an emotional support animal if someone obviously has a fear of dogs or, but I have one of my aunts is just deathly afraid of animals, and that's it's not she's not doing anything wrong. That's just it is what it is. So, like she would not be a good candidate for an emotional support animal. But I think typically it's best when there's, it's connection. Everyone needs connection. Everybody.
It's humorous because you were saying that, and there's a minister friend of mine who I won't call by name, but used to come over to my house in Indiana, and we had Mia, who was a teacup Chihuahua. Okay, and Mia loved everybody. Okay, I mean, you get into the house, Mia would not stop wiggling until she said hello to you. Okay, and after she said hello, it'd be fine. But you came into the house, you had to say hello to Mia. Now he'd come in and sit down, and he did not like pets. Mia didn't care. She'd come running over and jump on his lap and stuff, and and he would like pet her a little bit, like shooing her away. Mia didn't care. Mia just sat there and just plopped down on his lap and would stay there until he was calm and comfortable with her. And then after he was calm and comfortable, then Mia would go away.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing because then I'd watch like, maybe two or three more visits down the line, and he wasn't squeamish about the dogs. He
Yeah.
actually enjoyed being with Mia and stuff. Even when he came to visit me here when I moved to Florida, and Mia was here, and he same way. He just was okay. Yeah, Mia. Sat down. His wife was playing with the dog, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people don't want to get bogged down with a pet, and that's when they like put him out. Stay away from me a little
Yeah.
bit because I'm afraid I'm going to bond with you, and then I'm going to want one for myself, and
Uh-huh.
then that ties me down because it really does. If you go away, like think about it, if you go away,
Yeah.
okay, you and Aaron go someplace, someone's got to take care of your pets for me.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot recently in the news about service animals and emotional support animals. Now, obviously, today we're talking about service animals, not really about emotional support animals, though there are some we are referring to. But today, everybody wants to travel with their pets. And they say, "Oh, I cannot live with my little Yorkie if it's out of my arms." Okay. And we used to see celebrities all the time on TV. Remember Paris Hilton and stuff walking around with a little Yorkie in the bag, the dog sticking its head out of the bag, and everywhere on camera, which I believe is really what started this trend in the first place. Um, but there's starting to become a really bad trend with people with these animals. And the legitimate animals are starting to get problems with that. I know you and I spoke about this last week,
Yeah.
about some incidents that you had known about, where I think was it airline stewardess or something was
Yeah,
complaining to
but
you.
I was speaking to an airline stewardess, and I can't even remember how it came up. I was on a plane going somewhere, and somehow I remember emotional support animals came up, and I just remember her saying, "Oh, they're really cracking down on that," and just basically, and I mean, the reality is there's a really big difference between an emotional support animal and a service animal, and a service animal is they train their from the time they're a baby to learn specific tasks and really you can't ban a service animal from anywhere. I mean, a service
Right.
animal is basically a part of that person and that with an emotional support animal, it's not the same where you know, just because I use Polly for an emotional support example doesn't mean I can just walk into any restaurant with him. But if
Right.
he were a service animal that I had for a medical reason, then they would have to allow him. So there's those legalities, but I think that, yeah, I mean, I think the reality is a lot of people have probably abused that, because it's like, well, if I just order this vest on Amazon, nobody can tell me that I can't
No,
have my
not only
dog, and
that, almost
you
any vet will write you that letter that you need, or whatever that
yeah,
form is that you sign or something that says, yeah, I need this emotional support animal. And I'm sorry, as much as it'd be nice, but the people are doing that also so they don't have to pay $300 for that extra seat. If you
right,
can take
right,
your pet on a plane with you, you just got to pay for the other seat if it doesn't fit under your seat, in a cage or something. You're going to have to pay for that. I mean,
yeah,
I've been on flights where the woman sitting next to me had a dog. Okay, but it was in a cage, small dog that fit under the thing. And during the flight, she had unzipped the thing, and it was like popping its head out and stuff. And she was playing with the
I'm
dog, and
jealous.
even
How come I never get to sit by the dogs on the planes? I'm always jealous.
I'm always sitting next to the kids usually, but but I played with the dog. And it was funny at the airport when we were waiting. And just started this now, but we were waiting for the flight. And it was like 25, 30 minutes. There were probably about 40 people around her, and she had let the dog out and was like just running around the little area. They were playing with the dog, and
Yeah,
that's nice, but you don't really get preferential treatment for that. I mean, it's your dog. Yeah, when I travel, I'd like to take my dogs with me,
yeah,
but it's more of an inconvenience to the pet.
yeah.
And
Now,
even being on a flight is traumatic.
yeah, and keep in mind too, I also want to make sure that we say, not all emotional support animals are not emotional support. I mean, like they really
Right.
are, and there are a lot of people that legitimately do need that. Where, for example, if someone goes through a traumatic experience, let's say they live in an apartment and they go through a traumatic experience, you know, not only could a dog help protect them, and help them feel safer, but it can also emotionally support them, make them, feel more safe. They're not alone. I mean, there are many instances where it could be the best thing in the world. It's just unfortunate that there are people, there's always going to be people that abuse anything. And unfortunately, we're probably seeing a rollback on stuff because of that, maybe.
Yeah, it's well, I think it's gotten to the point where it's been abused. Is really what it comes down to. It's not really emotional support. It's a way of taking your pet with you,
Yeah.
and into places like you know. There was a time I didn't think you were allowed to have a pet in a supermarket, or with the exception of obviously a service animal,
Yeah.
but that you could even allow a pet inside of a supermarket because there was food.
Yeah.
Now people think nothing of it.
Hmm.
I mean, I've walked around. I've pet little dogs and all that other stuff that's there. They just Lowe's lets you in with an animal.
Yeah.
You can go into any of pet stores, obviously with dogs. They welcome the dogs
Yeah.
inside the pet stores, and yeah, it's kind of weird. We relax some things, but like everything, give an inch, people take a yard from
Yeah.
it, and that's a shame because those that really do need that animal for, like you say, for emotional support,
Yeah.
they're going to have. I'm
And I
trying to
want to
think of
say
a
this too.
word.
What a perfect situation when that animal needs them just as much,
Right,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah, but there's no question. Let's go to that right now. Okay, when you come home, that dog is been sitting there waiting for you all day.
Mhm.
Okay, you're its entire world to that
Yeah.
dog, and that dog needs you and wants you just as much as you want and need them. Come on, how many people at work have their little pet cams set up that they can see and talk to their pet from
Yeah.
work, okay, if they want to. During the break,
Mhm.
you can see Fluffy sitting in the corner,
Yeah.
hey Fluffy, and talk to him, And Fluffy, like, oh my God, there's ghosts here.
I used to
And
catch
remember that too?
one of our dogs. We had a big dog named Grux, and he was just awesome, just the coolest dog ever. But I used to catch him all the time standing on the couch so he could bark out the window, and it was like he was not allowed on the couch. And so every now and then, just randomly, I'd log into the camera at home, and I'd be like, there he is, and I'd say something and just watch him look around like you were. Yeah, it's one of the funniest things ever.
But I always used to say to people when we did the paranormal, they say, my cat sat there and, was staring up in the corner, at something, and it's like, listen, the cat has some great eyesight. Okay, it could be a little bug crawling across the ceiling, and the cat sees that, and it will sit and watch that thing for like 15 minutes. I said, now, if you see a dog sitting there looking up in the corner for like 2, 3, 4 minutes, okay, dogs have attention deficit disorder. Okay, I'm sorry, you can't get a dog to sit and stare at
Yeah.
so if they're sitting there and they're looking up in a corner, there's probably something paranormal going on up there if there's no bug or something that's there.
Yeah.
Because dogs aren't going to sit and stare and, I mean, I've seen dogs just sit and stare and bark at nothing, straight
Yeah.
ahead of them.
Yeah.
It's happened on investigations. We've seen the homeowner's dog doing stuff like that, and
Do
I'm
you
always
think
afraid.
I'm just curious as a paranormal investigator, something I always heard, and I'm just curious as your opinion on this. Like I've always heard or read, I think that like animals don't know that something's not supposed to be there, so they would be more likely to see something that maybe a human being wouldn't. And I just wondered if there's any truth to that or
What I find more is that dogs can sense and see things that we can't. Pets in general. Okay, I'm not going to say dog, because the same thing holds true
animals.
for any kinds of animals. And so I'm sorry, I'm watching the building walk across my front yard.
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those things that you know they know that there's something there. They can sense something in a room that we can't right away. There are a lot of us, there are a lot of people that can, but that they can sense things in a room that's not. Um, Now, humans form strong emotional connection with pets due to factors such as unconditional love and non-judgmental companionship they provide. Now, this can reduce stress, anxiety, and loneliness. Now, interacting with pets, it also triggers the release of that feel-good hormones, strengthening the bond that promotes feelings of calmness and security. Additionally, pets can encourage physical activity. They can improve social interactions and provide a sense of purpose and emotional support that resembles the bond formed with family members. Pets offer a non judgmental and a consistent source of affection, which can be deeply comforting. Their presence can alleviate loneliness, stress, sadness, and have been shown to even lower blood pressure. And as we've said, reduce anxiety and depression. The bond a pet can provide is like a sense of security. Think about it. It's similar to the attachment between a parent and a child. It creates a safe space for vulnerability. Interacting with pets improves your mood, can foster a happier emotional state. It can also release oxytocin, a bonding hormone that promotes feelings of calmness, security, and well being. Now, this is a reciprocal relationship, understand. Human provides care for pets, and pets provide companionship, and love forms a strong foundation for emotional attachment. Now, there may be evolutionary reasons why human forms attachments with other living beings, especially those that show affection and provide comfort. Pets, particularly dogs, can facilitate social interactions and help form new friendships. They provide reliable companionship while reducing those feelings of feeling isolated. Caring for a pet can provide a sense of purpose and responsibility, which can be beneficial for mental well being. They allow people to express vulnerability without a fear of judgment fostering a deep and trusting connection. How many times have you done something stupid in front of your dog or your cat, and you say, "Thank God it's just my cat or it's just my dog," and they're not going to say nothing, and they're not going to look down at you as being, something mentally wrong with you. But it gets real hard having to deal with the loss of a pet. Now, I've been through this a few times myself. On two different occasions, I lost two dogs within 3 days of each other. It was hard once. I truly thought it would crush my little heart the second time when it happened a few years later. It's a really tough thing. It was like losing two children twice, and it happened within like 2 or 3 days of each other. It really took a toll on both myself and my wife, Jennifer. So, Dr. Davis, with that being said, how significant can the grief of losing a pet be to someone?
It can be as significant as the loss of a person or anything else. I mean, I think sometimes, I know I've even felt that when I've had pets pass away, and I'm just devastated, just dying inside, and there's a part of me that, it's like, of course, people know I'm sad, but then there's almost like the stigma, like if they knew how sad I really was, they'll probably make fun of me or something, and it's like the reality is there is nothing wrong with grieving the loss of a pet, um, it's no different than losing a person. I mean, really, there's nothing different about it. It's just, uh, but it
Do a
is a
lot of
reality of life, like you were saying, and it's really difficult sometimes.
I've seen people underestimate that grief.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And couldn't that's just going to cause other mental health problems down the line by
Yeah,
keeping that inside. I mean, there are people that go to extremes. There are those that you say that, just like me, just, you grieve inside, but, you
yeah,
do acknowledge the grief at least and stuff. And then you go to the other extreme where I had a neighbor in Connecticut when she had I don't remember what kind of dog it was, big show dog. And when that dog passed away, they actually had a funeral for the dog with a casket and a burial and everything
yeah,
else. And I was working, so luckily I was unable to attend, just because they spent like $10,000
yeah.
on this thing, and they didn't have any children. This was their child, and in a lot of ways, I got that. I just thought it went a little overboard with it,
Yeah,
But it was like, I remember when
yeah.
dog passed away. They're like, do you want to cremate the dog? And we give you their ashes. And I'm like, what am I going to do with the dog's ashes? I mean, really, or you can bury them in your backyard. Well, I would just bury the dog in my backyard. Okay,
Yeah.
if I was going to do that,
I'll tell
it's
you what I plan on doing. I've kept the ashes of three of my pets. And I'll keep the ashes of any from here on out, I'm sure. But if I'm cremated, I literally want someone to sprinkle them in with me because
in with you. Yeah,
like,
there you
hey,
go.
mix the animals in with me. I want to hang out with them for eternity.
As some
Something
Christians
that's
or
or
some
go ahead.
Christians will argue, but I really believe when we die, they're going to be up there waiting for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you. I choose to believe that because that makes me
yeah,
really happy. And it's something that's really neat too. And it does come up in therapy a lot, especially if you have, people who are in a group or a client who's a pet owner. There are all sorts of lessons that we can, learn from our pets. And if you think about that, that's really significant because we're talking about we can't really talk to our pets. We can't say, I can't say I'm having a really hard day. What do you think about that, Paulie? And all if Paulie, that's what he's going to say because or he's going to bark. But I just think about just life lessons that we learn, like how our dog feels about us is an absolute direct response to how we treat them,
exactly.
and how we make them feel, and I think that that's significant to look at. Or Quinn's latest thing, she went to the vet a couple weeks ago, and she's on a little bit of a diet right now. But something that I've been doing for her is, I put like corn out in the yard, like hang it from the tree or whatever so
Hmm.
squirrels will come. She can't catch any squirrels, and I'm not going to let her catch any, but it gets her to run around and gives her something to do. And, you know, it's, they're here for us and we're here for them too. And I think about that even, and this is I don't even want to open this can of worms, but even spiritually, I feel like I've learned a lot from, you know, our pets, because like you said, in our lives, we're kind of, you know, God, where they go outside. If we let them outside, they're going to eat when we, you know, and it's like, what type of, and I think about that as being a, you know, like being a child of God or whatever. And, you know, my pets knock things over and they pee on stuff, or they get sick, or they fight, you know, or whatever. And it's like, but I love them anyway. I love them in spite of that. And it's like, well, if I can love them in spite of that, they probably can love me in spite of that. And it's just, there's just so many, it's such an onion that you can peel.
Think
With our
about how,
relationships with
you know, if you stepped on a dog, you're walking by and stepped on, and you feel terrible, but that dog doesn't look at you in anger.
No.
You know, he still looks at you with the same loving eyes that he did, you know, before you stepped on. You know, they
Yeah.
understand that, you know, you didn't mean to do that. What do you suggest to someone who's struggling with the loss of an animal?
You know, don't be ashamed to talk about it. You know, don't be
Mhm.
afraid to talk about it. And if you're worried about what people around you will say, you know, reach out to a therapist, or you know, talk to your veterinarian or somebody. But you do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to go through that alone. You know, something that's kind of amazing is when you know, when you're open about that, like, hey, I lost a pet, and you know, like, oh, I was dying inside. I was so torn up. I still am. I miss my pets every day. That's no secret. But when I'm open about that, maybe other people understand that they're not alone. And if they're going through a similar thing, that, you know, I had a friend, one of my dearest friends, she asked me, you know, she has a dog that's getting a little bit older. And she was like, I don't even want to think of, you know, like, God forbid that, you know, a day will come. And it was like, well, don't let knowing that day is going to arrive at some point ruin any of the days up till then,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And love your pets all the more, because they have much less time here than we do, you know. So a
See,
day in our
I
life
know
is like a week in theirs.
Piper is 14 or something like that, and I know those, you know, her days are coming. I mean, she's already sometimes has problems walking a little bit and stuff, and her teeth are like, you know, I was want to call it, you know, Bubba. Sometimes the way the front teeth are,
Yeah.
but you know, I know her days are coming soon, and I still enjoy every single moment I can with her. You know, she sleeps
Yeah.
next to me at night, and you know, even if I wake up during the night to go to the bathroom, and I come back and she's like laying there, yeah, I'll pet her for like about 5 to 10 minutes, you know, and then
Yeah.
go from there. Now, with as far as people, I've had many people say, you know, I don't know what to do after that. They lost a pet, and I've always said to them, when you're ready, get another pet.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't want, well, you know what? The love that you gave to pet A, you know, there's another pet out there like pet B that could really use that kind of love
Yeah.
and will reciprocate the same love. May not be exactly the same as pet A, but you'll still feel the love with
Yeah.
pet B. And,
I always
you know,
think
more
too, you
people
know,
have to pay attention to that.
if you think about the animals, you know, I mean, if you think about the animals that are in, you know, a shelter or in the pound or
Hmm.
whatever, you know, like if you have love that, I'm a firm believer. If I have love to give an animal and I have room in my life that I can adequately take care of them, then why not? Because that animal, there are so many animals that desperately need somebody. They need someone, just somebody, you
And,
know?
you know, that's something my aunt has always gone to shelters for her pets, and she gets some of the older dogs that may only
Yeah.
have like 4 or 5 years left to live, but nobody wants to adopt those
Yeah.
pets. And she's more than happy to adopt those pets and give them you know, at least the last couple of years of their lives to show that they feel loved, they have their own
Mhm.
place, they're not locked in a cage and everything else.
Right.
And even if you want to get a younger pet, still go to the shelters.
Yeah.
There are people that have pets that don't take care of them and they end up in a shelter.
That's so sad.
Those pets need that loving and stuff. It's terrible. See, I look at seniors a lot, especially where I'm currently living. Many seniors here have dogs, and they love their pets. It's a lifeline for many of them. Sometimes they're replacing even a loved one who has passed. It's for that companionship. There's someone to feel like you still have a purpose for. Sometimes it's even to replace a spouse or a child. It frightens their mood substantially. I mean, I see that all the time when they're walking through the streets with their pets. They're really happy and proud to be with their pets. So, Dr. Davis, why might animal companionship be especially helpful for children and seniors, or even people that suffer from PTSD?
Well, first of all, it's you form a relationship that's based on trust. So in a lot of situations, not always, but typically in a PTSD situation, it's trust has been violated in some way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's somewhere trust was violated somehow. And so if you can, build a loving relationship with an animal, I mean it's what's important is that we restore our ability to have healthy relationships, and having a pet can absolutely help that happen. But like you said, I mean, I would not, if you don't know if you're ready or not, then don't do it. But if you
Right.
feel like you're ready and it could be helpful to you, I would highly recommend getting a pet.
Because remember, too, if you're not ready, it's not fair to the pet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Bringing all that
Not at
things,
all.
sometimes it's forever home, and you're not ready for it, you're going to give it away and
Yeah.
stuff again. That's really tough. And, we've seen, like, we had Dave on with, police officer suffered
Mhm.
from PTSD. We were trying really hard, folks, to find a veteran or something that suffered from PTSD. And dogs, I've seen so many of them, I just can't remember who they are or where to find them. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you'd like to be on a show at one point, we'll gladly do another episode and have you on and we'll talk about, the PTSD and the dog. So, we talked about how, it's helped with chronic illness. People that live alone or they suffer from that, it gives them a companion there. Now we come to that point in the show. I'd like to take a moment and talk about suicide. I know people always hate hearing about this subject, but it's imperative that we have this discussion. First, before I say anything else, I know Dr. Davis will want me to say, remember to dial 988 immediately if you're feeling suicidal. There are people waiting 24/7 to talk with you and help you through these thoughts. Remember, dial 988. Right away, just pick up the phone and dial it now if you're feeling suicidal. Now, in a 2019 article on Psychology Today, in 2017, 47,173 Americans killed themselves. That's more individuals than those that died in car accidents and nearly 3 times the number of people who were murdered. And that increased by 33% between 1999 and 2016. Now, I'm going to read to you what a researcher by the name of Thomas Joyner once wrote. Okay, the concept of thwarted belongingness refers to feelings of not belonging, not being connected to others, being alone. And it's also a lack of reciprocal caring and helping. No one turns to me for help when needed, and I have no one to turn to when I need help. I think of the deep, high priority connections that so many people have with their dog or with their cats. I know there's a lot of research about emotional support associated with companion animals and therapy animals. It seems to me that for many, many people I know, relationship with their pets directly addresses the belongingness need that Joyner places centrally in his theory. Now, in the past reiteration of this show, we had on someone who was on the cusp of ending his life, but looked at his beloved dog and cannot bear to do that to the dog. Losing that bond between the owner and the dog having to live life without him. Now, thankfully, he did not commit suicide. And actually, we showed you a little clip on the show that we did about suicide from this person. And, I'm very happy to say he's doing really, really well. And, he really cares for his animals. And he, every time he gets a dog, it's a shelter dog too, because, he's rescuing a dog that needs help. And actually, he started an organization called Photograph for Pooches. And since 2013, they've raised over $138,600 to save the lives of animals. And it's all in the dog's legacy, Murray. And, I've met Murray once at one of the Paracons. Him used to bring the dog with him, and an outstanding dog. You could just feel the love that he had between that dog and himself. Um, he goes around, he raises awareness and attention to the plight of the dogs and for suicide itself. Now, the link to his website you'll find in this description, this YouTube description that we have. So, Dr. Davis, are there situations where owning a pet may not be mentally healthy or sustainable for someone?
Well, I mean, if you find yourself in a position where you're unable to care for that pet adequately, I mean, if you can't bathe, and take care of that pet, then definitely that, it's if it's not a healthy situation for the animal or yourself, but don't put the animal in a situation where it's not safe for it.
Especially if you're afraid of animals.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is to, bring an animal into your situation. Everybody says, "Oh yeah, I have my dog in space," but if you have a fear of animals, that's not a good,
Yeah.
not a good healthy situation. Now we all seem to go out and look for healers, someone with those mystical powers that can cure our problems with this little potion. But we might just have that healer wagging its tail and purring away while looking at you. See, I look deep into my dog's eyes and I can see the love that they have for me, how they watch out and care about me and my health. So, Dr. Davis, let me ask, if someone's considering getting a pet for emotional support, what advice would you give them?
Make sure that you're going to be able to, make sure you have a schedule and that your life is set up where you can adequately take care of that animal. And if you can, then by all means do it, because as a pet owner, I would not trade the relationships I've had with any of my pets throughout the years for anything, not a single thing.
And all the stuff that those pets teach us as human beings, and they teach us about ourselves.
Yeah. They do.
I'm sure you've learned more about yourself with your pets, just being alone with your pets than most people realize, or a lot of us care to admit, I should say.
Well, they teach us to listen also. That's
Mhm.
something else as far as communication skills. There's nonverbal communication, but it also teaches us to listen, and we can't just listen to what they're saying because they don't really say anything, but we have to listen to their actions, their body language. It's a cohesive relationship, and it's um I'd take in every animal in the world if I could, but I don't think that's a possibility. So
That's what Jen said. She said, if we ever had a farm, she said,
oh
that
man.
I'd have like 15 dogs. And I was like, yeah, and you'd be cleaning up after them and feeding them.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to take a moment and think about that special animal in your life. Maybe it's the dog that greets you at the door, or a cat who curls up next to you in bed after a long day, or even the memory of a pet that once brought you comfort during a rough time. Remember, animals don't judge. They don't ask questions. They simply show up, loyal, consistent, full of love, usually the tail wagging. And sometimes that presence is exactly what we need to feel grounded, to feel seen, and feel less alone. If you're struggling right now, remember, you're not weak. You're not alone. And while no pet can replace professional help, they can be a powerful partner in the journey to healing. Whether it's calming your nervous system, encouraging your daily routines, or just giving you a reason to smile, animals often remind us what it means to be fully present and emotionally connected. So hug your pup, scratch your cat behind the ears, and don't forget to thank your feathered or furry friend for showing up day in and day out. Remember to visit our website at yourlifematterspodcast.com for more information on our show and contact information for us. Also, remember to take a moment and click the like button and that bell so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. See, we found there's still many of you that are watching the episodes but have not clicked the subscribe button. If you could do that for us, we'd all love it. And it would actually help the show because it would get the show out to more people and be seen by more people with the YouTube algorithms. Okay, this show's about helping and providing support and hope to people. Even if it's just one person at a time, the show then remains important and asset to the community. And we thank you for helping us do that. So until next time, from Dr. Davis and myself at the Your Life Matters Show podcast, please take care of yourself. Remember, sometimes healing comes on 4 legs and with a heartbeat. Never forget, your life truly does matter. God bless you all. We hope to see you again next week for another great episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this week's new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Please be sure to join us again next week for another great episode with your host Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Your help with this helps us reach a wider audience that may need our help. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you are valuable and important. Take time to cherish yourself and those around you. Never forget, your life matters.